I don't know what to do with this sword. Should I use it to gesture?
Just like hold it like against your shoulder. Yeah.
Oh, like.
Or like if you want to refer to Dylan directly, you can.
Dylan, what do you think about Gladiator II? All right, I'll do this the whole time. Welcome, everyone, to the Over Under Movies podcast, the show where we take a prominent figure or franchise in the world of filmmaking and ask the simple question, are they overrated or are they underrated? Today, we're doing one of our classic movie reviews. We just saw Gladiator II. I'm here, joined as always by my co-host. He is the Marcus to my Aurelius.
Let's go.
It's Mr. Dylan DeAngelis.
What's up, baby? Late night pod coming at you.
We're so tired.
1:22 in the morning here on the East Coast.
And we are joined by a very special guest. It's our friend. It's our roommate, Mr. John McDyer.
Hello, hello.
Welcome back, John. First 3-time guest on the pod, I think.
I think you get, we were saying
wow.
two-time guest.
It's a long journey.
Yeah, we were talking about the things, like the items that we could give people that have been on the pod multiple times. Because
laurels might be fitting.
Laurels would be great.
That's how Smosh first made their money, the merch.
There you go. We got to get our merch store up.
I think we're going to be losing money because we're just going to be giving merch to our friends and then we make no money on it.
We're going to be like one of those like
gracious
Yes, like the pyramid scheme people where they buy a whole ton of stock in like cosmetics that just sit in their garage and they never sell.
I have to pay a bunch of money to you and get a bunch of guests for myself.
We should make our guests into our downline for a pyramid scheme. That's a good idea. Now, John, the first time you were on our podcast, it was talk about what movie?
Gladiator,
and now you're back to talk about Gladiator 2. Let's go.
Basically, a whole year later. Was Gladiator 2 supposed to come out earlier than this? Did it get pushed back?
We just wanted to talk about it.
We just wanted to talk about it a year ahead of time?
Yeah. Back then,
an important film.
We've improved as a pod since then.
No, back then we used to just be like, what movie do we want to watch? I don't know.
Just kick back with the bros, watch some Gladiator.
Yeah, so true. And that's what we did tonight as well. So, Gladiator 2 just came out. We just saw it.
Yes, sir.
What are our initial thoughts? Let's start with did we like it? Did you guys like it?
I thought it was good.
I think it's very, very similar to the first film.
Super similar.
Whatever opinion you have of the first film, you will have of the second.
It has a lot of references to the first film, so
it sure does.
I will say, in the defense of the film, because this is a movie that is coming out 24 years after the first film, and so your cynical mind goes to, well, this is just like a cash grab. There's no reason for this sequel to exist. I think this sequel actually works pretty well with the first film.
Yeah, it's a pretty direct continuation of events from the first film that just happens to be the same events again.
It's very similar in story structure. It's got a lot of it's a decent number of characters come back, or at least referenced, when it comes to characters that died in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say it's definitely better than a lot of other franchise reboots or long hiatus than continuations.
Yeah, I like this more than Beetlejuice 2.
It kicks the heck out of the attempt at a Matrix reboot.
Yeah, which we also talked about on this pod. Yeah, I would say they kind of, Gladiator, it won an Oscar?
It won Best Picture.
It won the Oscar.
It won a lot of Oscars.
So it had a winning formula, and they kind of just went with that again. So that formula is, there's a guy that may be the rightful emperor of Rome, but instead he gets turned into a slave gladiator and then has to fight his way up until he can get revenge on the people.
There's some badass fights in the Colosseum.
There are badass fights in the Colosseum, and that's really what people are here for. And I will say that those fights were good.
Technology hasn't improved since 2000, and they show it. They do some cool stuff. I like how in this one it follows the James Cameron Avatar path of going from land to sea here.
Naval battles.
Yeah, the next movie is going to be the Colosseum on fire.
Yes,
fire. Yeah,
doing fire battles,
and then the last one, Colosseum in the sky, and then we've done all 4 elements.
Yeah, and then we do Gladiator, the Last Airbender.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody who can harness the power of all of the Colosseum battles.
That would actually be cool. So yeah, overall, it sounds like we liked it. It sounds like we're a little cool on it.
I don't think this is like a spectacular film or anything like that, though I had a similar opinion of the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it's as crisp as the first movie. Right off the bat, one of the thing is the first movie, there's really not as too much real character development in the first movie. In this one, there kind of is in the main in the Lucius, but it feels a bit choppy to me. But I guess it's kind of movies are a relatively short amount of time to show changes. But just like the pathway of the first one, it's much more crisp. This guy loves Rome. He gets hurt for his love of Rome, and also his family's killed. He's pissed. He wants to restore Rome, and he wants to avenge his family. This one, it's not as crisp.
Yeah, similar beats in this one, but there's more going on, not told quite as well.
He doesn't really mention his wife after like halfway through the movie.
He does. He says my wife a lot.
Her. I don't. Okay,
you're right. It's not.
He does mention her, but I feel like once, like by the end, he's only talking about Rome.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He also doesn't flash back to his wife as often as Maximus did in the first one. It's interesting. In that opening scene, when you see his wife, she's also a warrior, a soldier, but then she also dies immediately. So like you can kind of see the social progress of like, yeah, we've got a woman fighter in this one, and then it's like, but she's also going to die for the male's motivation.
Before we get any further, spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen it. We're doing full spoilers.
That was
here,
the
right?
first 5 minutes. So.
We're gonna put spoilers in the title of the episode, but just a heads up in case you didn't read the title of the episode, you just saw Gladiator 2. Full spoilers. I was almost certain that Paul Mescal's wife at the beginning of the movie was not going to have any lines of dialogue before she died, because you don't hear her talk, and I was thinking like, oh no, they're just not going to have her speak. And then she's gonna get shot with an arrow.
But she did speak, right?
She gets one line of dialogue. Yeah, they say "I love you" to each other and trade rings, so they get married, I guess.
Oh, and then she says, "I'll wait for you," but that's after she dies.
She also gets taken away on like what's the guy called with the boat to the river Styx?
Chiron.
Is that what that is? Like what was that supposed to? Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like the Grim Reaper. I was like picking her up.
Chiron's the centaur guy.
No, no. Wait, it's Pluto and Charon. Wait,
yeah, Charon.
Charon.
Shout out to Charon.
Yeah, but yeah, she gets on a ferry to go to the afterlife, and it doesn't matter if it's the official Greek name of that person that takes them, but she dies, and then that's Paul Mescal's initial motivation to get revenge.
Yeah, to actually like become a gladiator and fight back and try to get his revenge. I mean, very similar setups to the first film, though I will say this is one of like a very few movies I would say that it has a very strong second act. I really like the second act of this movie, where we're going through all of the revelations of Paul Mescal's character. I like what's his name? Like Hedo or something like that?
It doesn't matter. He changes it
Hetero
pretty quickly after.
That he is the little boy from the first movie. He's Lucius.
Yeah.
And it is revealed that Maximus was his father. That was something that was like speculated in the first film, right? Yeah. They don't ever like actually spell that out.
Yeah, exactly.
Who the father, who his father was. But yeah, he gets sent away by his mom because I guess they're gonna kill the boy. Who takes over as emperor after the first movie? Do they ever talk about it?
No, it's implied that it's supposed to be right. The Senate takes over, right? Like the elder senator who's also in this one. That's something like the plan is, right?
Because the emperors in this film are a pair of twins, and is that accurate to the history?
I do not know.
Because Commodus was a real person, wasn't he?
Commodus was, yes.
Yeah, it's hard to say what the relation between those twins and like the previous emperors
was. It's kind of like a hard reset. You don't know exactly everything that had to happen for this to go on. I mean, again, like I'm almost positive that at the end of the first one, right? Because the whole thing is like, we want to restore the Republic, which is also what they say in this one somehow. But even though it's also with Lucius kind of taking over. But like I think they look towards the elder Senate, right? And it's supposed to be like, oh yes, the Senate, and therefore the people will rule again. I think is the idea that they leave you with at the first one. Obviously, a bunch of stuff happens. I mean, Lucius being a child, it's not entirely on, children who aren't able to rule themselves are kind of considered, it can be very dangerous for them.
But child emperors were a thing in that time, right? I mean,
but you have to have someone strong enough to back you. So yes, you do definitely have child emperors, but you also have people killing child emperors because they can't do any,
Yeah, so that's why the little boy from the first one gets sent away for his own protection. and then he just lives a completely different life where he doesn't consider himself Roman, and then he comes back because he needs revenge.
And this is the thing that I feel like is the kind of character progression, which again, for a movie is all in all a relatively short period of time. But in the beginning, he has rage, and it's about the fact that they took over his land, and they take and they kill his wife. So and he speaks of hating Rome, and then after they do the reveal, and his mom comes to see him. Of course, he rejects Rome when his mom first comes to see him. By the end, he decides that he's all for Rome and he wants to fight for Rome. There is some kind of progression there, which I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Simba, initially when Nala seeks him out, he's like, no, I'm not going back to the Pride Lands. But then eventually he goes back to the Pride Lands and fights. I would say this is just like a slightly worse Lion King.
This movie very nearly has a Lion King moment at the very end.
I just turned it down.
Where Paul Mescal is looking up at the sky and you see the clouds moving and you go, oh my God.
And he says, he says, Father, speak to me.
Are we about to see Cloud Russell Crowe appear in the sky?
That would have been awesome. That would have sold me on this movie.
Ridley Scott did not have the balls to do that.
No. Yeah.
I would say the end of this movie is a little anticlimactic. Like he's just like sitting in the middle of the Coliseum.
Well, and then they cut
rolls credits.
They cut to the fields of grain, just like in the first,
like the first one. It's like poetry.
I would also say that like the final fight was a little anticlimactic too, right? So like, I don't know if I really want to spoil this.
It's one of the cool elements I would say of this movie. If we're comparing it to the first one, is that in the first one, Commodus is the bad guy, and he's like the bad guy for the entire movie.
Yeah.
There is no fake out villain. There's no like political backstabbing going on, really. The Senate's involved and Lucilla's involved, but Joaquin Phoenix is the bad guy for the entire movie, and then the final fight is between Maximus and Commodus. In this one, they kind of play with you a little bit.
Yeah.
They go around with like a bunch of different characters that you think are gonna be the main focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like initially, Lucius wants to kill Pedro Pascal's character, because Pedro Pascal's character is the one who put the order to shoot down the archers, which was what
he's the invading general.
Yeah, that's what Lucius's wife was one of the archers, and she gets shot with an arrow and she dies. Lucius wants revenge. Eventually, he kind of makes peace with Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal dies anyway. And then Denzel Washington's doing all these political machinations to get power for himself, which involves killing one of the twin emperors, installing the other one to power, and then he plans to kill the other one too.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Denzel's plan is here. It looks a little messy. It's revealed that he was like a slave of Marcus Aurelius, and that this is kind of like a revenge story of his that's playing out as well.
But it's also his revenge story is just taking over Rome.
Yeah, he just wants
he just wants to be number. I mean, and I guess he does like a foreshadowing or something in the beginning when they're quoting different alleged Roman quotes, and he says a slave just wants to have his own slave from Cicero. So it's like he fundamentally he views Rome as this beacon of power and just this violent carnal thing, but that's not wrong to him. He just wants to be the one who's on top.
Yeah, and it's cool that we see him using Lucius as a tool. He's a means to an end for Denzel's character. Even though I think Denzel's performance is like a little over the top.
He's having a good time.
He's having a good time. He's goofing around a bit in this movie.
Tapping into like his Shakespearean theater act.
That's what it felt like.
Which is like always a little. I mean, theater acting's just bigger than film acting usually. But I think the performance, the film kind of calls for it. So I didn't find it very distracting. I thought it was good.
Oh, and I think like he was kind of matching the energy a lot of the twin emperors that we see
over the top. Yeah,
I don't know the guy that
twins
has like the brain issue. But the other guy is Joseph Quinn, who we're going to be seeing in a lot of movies. He's going to be in Fantastic Four next year. Him and Pedro Pascal, which is hilarious.
Yeah, they kind of. The twins are as opposed to Commodus, who's crazy but kind of cunning. The twins just seem kind of crazy. and one Quinn's a little bit crazier and vicious than the other.
Yeah, they seem a little incompetent.
Yeah, they're almost a little so incompetent. Like they're they're not as like vile as Commodus in a certain way because they're just too crazy.
It makes it feel less earned when Denzel eventually kills them and tries to fill that power vacuum. Because it's just like, these guys are idiots. They have like no control over what's happening.
Yeah, they were never like specifically cool movie villains, which I think was kind of the goal. They cast like lesser known actors for those roles because they wanted you to follow the other actors more. But I think the movie still would have been stronger if like they fleshed those characters out a little bit more.
Yeah, but I think overall the idea of Denzel being like the quote unquote main villain of it is cool. I like it.
It was kind of cool. The ending felt a little bit rushed. So like seeing him seize power all the way up until him losing the power, that all happens really fast.
Yeah, why is he running away on a horse? Is just so they can have the 1v1 fight on the road
between the two armies.
Yeah, I think it had a little bit more plot in the first one, so it had to fit in a bit more.
Yeah, I honestly think this movie, if it was maybe a half hour longer, could have felt like a really cohesive, epic film.
Half hour longer?
I think so.
Because I feel like this is going to be blasphemy to say about a Gladiator film, but like I kind of felt like there's too many Coliseum fights.
Oh, really?
There's what, 4?
No, I think all of those were good though. No, they were good.
I think honestly the fights were better. Like a lot of the action was better than the first one. I don't know.
I would say so too.
I mean, definitely. There's not. Obviously, the CGI is better. And they can do more stuff.
I guess I kind of feel like I still like the first opening battle, but I don't know.
I agree
it's hard
with
to
that
say.
too.
Well, there's really 5 battles in the movie. There's the first one. Well, yeah, there's that opening battle, which is the only like real army v army battle we see in the movie.
Yes.
And then there's the slaves fighting the CGI monkeys.
Yes, very CGI.
Which those monkeys did not look like great CGI.
One thing we talked about when we watched the first film was we were like, look how many animals they got on set. That's amazing. They got all these animals to act in the movie. They got real animals.
Yeah, and in this one, it's a lot of CGI animals.
And they don't look good.
And one practical monkey.
They have so many CGI monkeys and only one real monkey. And look, I'm not saying that films need to go back to an era of animal cruelty and exploitation. But I am saying...
Listen, maybe a little bit.
The first Gladiator, like... They had real tigers that they would use for the fight sequence, and then during the actual violent parts, just cut to CGI tigers obscured. This time is just all CGI.
The second battle is the first battle in the actual Coliseum, which is versus the guy on the rhino.
That was sick.
Which
these were all sick.
He gets the rhino to run into the wall and like concuss itself.
Yeah.
And my favorite part of that fight is that he doesn't kill the rhino. The rhino's just standing around at the end of the fight.
Yeah, good.
He's like, I got a fucking headache. Leave me alone.
It's also a throwback to the first one. He uses clouds of dust.
Yeah, that is a fun callback. That's why I was saying that these movies probably work well if you watch them back to back.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because obviously Lucius was a little boy in the first movie, so he was seeing Maximus do all that shit in the Colosseum. So even though from a movie perspective you can go, well, they're just doing the same thing over again, at least narratively it makes some sense that he's just like copying the strategies that he saw, like the greatest gladiator he ever saw. I was gonna say it felt a lot like a Star Wars prequel a little bit, with you had the fight sequences that were cool, but then you had like the political machinations behind the scenes.
Yeah, I could see that.
And you're like, I don't give a shit about the Senate, bro. I just don't. I don't care if it's a space Senate. I don't care if it's the ancient Roman Senate.
Like, I liked that stuff. I just felt like, you know, I've seen this enough times now where like there's a plot to overthrow the incompetent or evil.
And you know the plot's going to fall apart.
And the plot falls apart.
Spoilers, the plot falls apart in the first movie.
And there's an hour left of the film. Yeah, I've seen this a million times. We all watch Game of Thrones. Like, yeah. Okay, well,
I don't watch Game of Thrones.
I also didn't really watch that much Game of Thrones.
John's watched Game of Thrones.
Is there plots?
There are lots of plots in Game of Thrones.
I feel like a lot of the plots go through, though, in Game of Thrones. That's kind of the whole idea.
Plots that go through are often by the bad guys. But yeah, plenty of plots fail, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of like political stuff that can get a little repetitive and dull. But I really do think
I
like
liked-
things could have been fleshed out more. Like I could have cared about those emperors more. I could have
Yeah,
cared about Pedro Pascal more.
There's a scene in the first Gladiator where they show kind of like verbal sparring between the Emperor and the Senate that I really like, where the Emperor's Commodus is like playing with his sword or something and talking about how he wants the people to feel loved by him, and the Senate's being like, there's a plague going on. What do we do? Well, how do we set up the quarantine? He's like, don't you see? I just want them to love me. I just want them to feel held. And the main senator's just like, have you ever held a plague victim? And it's, there's
that was good. Yeah,
there's a kind of good zingers from the first one, which not as much. I mean, they make certain jokes about innuendos about the sexuality of some of the major political figures.
Yeah, this movie is pretty gay.
It's not
that gay.
It's I guess for a movie that takes place in ancient Rome, it could be gayer.
It's not very gay at all. They just kind of say,
Romans,
that guy
I believe,
like
were a bit homophobic, especially compared to the Greeks. But I mean, of course, it was still, yes, you would have still had gay senators, I'm sure, just like at any time, just closeted. But
oh, shit, we got gay senators now.
yeah, I thought that the line, there weren't like kind of like verbal zingers in that way. I don't recall really.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think the dialogue in this movie was particularly strong at all. Like his rousing speech that he gives at the end, I didn't find that inspiring. It's got nothing on Are You Not Entertained?
Yeah,
that's true.
That was the other thing I was thinking throughout the movie is that like, I think Paul Mescal gives like a pretty good performance.
Good performance.
I don't know if I've seen him in a movie before.
Me too.
So this is the first time I've seen him in this like leading role or something like that.
He's certainly a good actor.
I think he's a good actor. He's competent. He's got the look. I mean, he's built.
Oh, he was so shredded.
He did a very good job.
Spent some time in the gym for this one.
He did a very good job at hiding his Irish accent because I've heard him talk in real life. He's very Irish. But yeah, he doesn't have the presence of Russell Crowe.
No, definitely not.
And I guess the movie leans into that a little bit. The movie kind of hammers you a little bit on like he's not Maximus. He's not at that level.
He has a big line that he tries to, when Pedro Pascal is killed, he tries to have something like Are You Not Entertained? Where he's like, this was Rome's hero. Look how they treat him. How would they treat you?
Yeah, if this is what his life is worth, then what are yours worth?
It was okay, but it definitely doesn't hit as hard as what.
Like the line's not as good and the moment's not as strong.
Yeah.
Like even that being said, like that was still a cool moment. We're just comparing it to like an all-timer movie moment.
Yeah, I do like that the movie harped on the escalation of civil unrest in Rome.
Yeah.
And how the Praetorian Guard is like they're losing control of things. The civilians are fighting back.
Yeah, that was a good progression from the first one because in the first one they were talking about how not everyone was getting enough food, but in this one you see the citizens rioting and fighting back a bit more.
It's a important plot piece for the political intrigues.
Yeah, you need the civil unrest, and I think they did a decent job with that. I don't know. I'm not trying to say this should be like a super long thing, but like if this was like a mini series, and people say this a lot about movies and they're usually wrong, but like this would be a really good mini series, I think, where you actually flesh out every one of those plot lines.
Well, this movie's 2.5 hours long. I think like 2 hours 10, you could do something with that.
I could see it being better shorter as well, but I could also see it being better longer. So
yeah,
I mean, you know what makes the length worse is that this movie did not start until 30 minutes after the start time.
That's just
at the goddamn AMC.
Although, yeah, like it's 20 minutes of trailers, which you come to expect, but then they kept showing like a special like you're watching this in Dolby Cinema, and then they'd be like
AMC Prime.
Yeah, AMC Prime, and then they'd be like
Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, and Nicole Kidman.
And then they had their regular theater thing too, where it's like those people dancing while holding Coca-Cola, and I was like, dude,
it's please
10:30.
Please just show me the fucking movie.
And I gotta be honest, like I did the Wicked Gladiator, I saw both movies. Wicked is 10 minutes longer, and I'll tell you, it flies by compared to this movie.
Wow, shots fired.
Wicked is...
Scott, you listen to that?
Yeah, Wicked is so much better.
Wicked, unlike Gladiator, passes the Bechdel test.
Wicked absolutely does pass
my God,
the Bechdel test.
This movie, just like Gladiator 1, has one female character, and it's Lucilla. She's the 2 movies. There's one female character,
right, and she does.
total.
She does
That's so
talk to
true.
one other person, but they're not really. She talks to her servant,
She gives an order to a
spies-
servant.
She says, "Get out of here."
and then her servant spies on her.
Yeah. Wow.
And the servants are like left out to die with her at the end in the Coliseum, right?
Yes. Which
Well,
I thought was an
I
interesting.
really bit them in the ass, huh?
Yeah.
I know that I was telling you when we were leaving the theater. So May Calloway was supposed to be in this. She was the lead actress from the Moon Knight series. She's a Palestinian actress. Apparently, she had a pretty decent role in this film. When she was first announced in the movie, it was called a leading role in the movie, and all of her scenes are cut. She's not in this movie.
Wow. So she must have had a pretty major subplot.
And so I'm curious, like just like speculating out loud, like who do you think she was supposed to be?
I don't know. How old is she?
She's like the same age as Paul Mescal. She's in her mid to
She
late
might have been
20s.
like, there might have been a female
Additional role.
gladiator.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Something. I
Yeah,
don't
if she
know.
was supposed to be like a love interest character that we were introduced to like later in the film or something.
Is she like a badass?
I mean, she's a badass in the Moon Knight series. Yeah,
Maybe she was like a female gladiator or something.
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
that they had a whole character that got cut out.
Interest and a female gladiator. I could see that.
Where this guy was like, wait, what? A second female character? Hold the phone. We got to do some reshoots. We can't allow this to happen.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I'm sure we'll find out soon though.
I saw that she took a lot of behind the scenes pictures with Pedro Pascal. So I wonder if like the 2 of them were related or something like that.
Yeah, it could be.
Because he's the most interesting character in the movie, right? Because he's the general of the Roman army, and he clearly doesn't support the emperor, but he loves Rome. So he's in this weird, like two-faced situation.
He's part of the plot to overthrow the emperors. He's also married to, what's her name? Lucilla.
Because like if Paul Mescal never shows up in this movie, you could still have a movie about Yeah, you could still have a movie about the general and Lucilla overthrowing the emperors.
Or attempting to. Yeah. So there's a lot of melodrama in this movie. So Paul Mescal is playing Lucius, who is the son of Lucilla and Maximus. Lucilla marries Pedro Pascal's character, but Pedro Pascal's character is the one who orders the kill on Lucius's wife.
Oh my God, drama.
So it's like, so much drama. The part where Lucius finally forgives Pedro Pascal, and Pedro Pascal is like, "I just want you to know, I love your mother." I was like, bro, if someone said that to me and I was about to kill him, I'd be like, "I'm gonna kill you even harder."
You're not my real dad, Pedro Pascal.
Say that about my mom.
Him getting shot with like 20 arrows it's a badass way to die.
Lit up like Boromir.
Yeah, I will say there
It's
was
like Boromir. It's like with the from 300 and
Leonidas.
Yeah.
there was a few moments in this movie where people in the audience audibly like gasped or were like, "Oh my God." And it was usually when people were getting shot by arrows.
There's a lot of arrow deaths in this movie.
Yeah, it was cool.
I did like in the beginning of the film where they were doing the arrow volleys back and forth between the 2 armies, and you saw the Romans, they shot the arrows and it killed a bunch of people, and then the Africans, they shot a bunch of arrows back, but those got blocked largely by like the phalanx.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. It shows that the Romans have like the more organized army.
Yeah, and better technology and stuff. Yeah, I guess my overall thoughts are that like the action was good, maybe even better than the first film. The political subplots got kind of boring, but also were sometimes interesting. It's a lot like the first movie, just not as good.
Yeah, I think it's competent. And I think if you look at this, like, I know this is how you view these, John, is that this is historical fiction. This isn't meant to appear as some telling of how the actual events went down in ancient Rome.
I mean, it's a lot of fantasy. I mean, it's a huge, Ridley Scott. I mean, he's a contemporary American. So, and in America, a lot of Americans tradition borrowed from Rome, but like the idea of the Roman Republic. So that's what he like values. So that's why all his films are about restoring the Republic, et cetera, et cetera. That's what he's zeroing in on. Again, I don't know about these. They're definitely not as famous as like Marcus Aurelius or Commodus or Caligula or Nero, but they do a few interesting throwbacks with the Roman references. When the surviving twin puts his monkey as a consul. There's supposed to be a kind of dual executive over the Roman Senate. That's the consulate. You have two consuls. That's a throwback to a legend about Nero appointing his horse as a consul, which we don't know. I'm not sure if that's historical because it could just be propaganda written by the people afterwards who killed him. But
this fucking guy, he made his horse consul.
Yeah, that's funny.
They seem to take up Ve Victus or how I learned it would pronounce Y Victus as a like war cry. That was something that the Gauls were supposed to say to Rome when they conquered in the Roman Empire, Roman civilization period. The actual city of Rome gets conquered twice. Once way back in the beginning by the Gauls, and they're Y Victus means woe to the conquered, woe to the vanquished. That was supposed to be what they say to the Romans as they're demanding, like, give them all their money. And they say it in the beginning. Pedro Pascal, General Casio, says it as they're lighting all the piers on fire. And then they say it a few times randomly as like a war cry, almost like when the gladiators are fighting, which doesn't exactly make sense. But again, they're fun Easter eggs. General Casio, when he's talking to the two generals after he's had his triumph, which is, that was a huge thing. If you're a successful general, you have a triumph, you go through of that parade that they were doing through Rome. And he's like, what here, we'll give you the laurels. And he's like, the only laurels I need are serving the Senate and people of Rome. And Senate and people of Rome, that's what there's a famous Roman standard that you probably may have seen, SPQR, and that's what it means, Senate and people of Rome. So they're kind of sprinkling in these kind of Easter eggs.
There are Easter eggs for people who are fans of Roman history.
Yeah, it's they're doing like Roman nerd things. Oh, and when Lucius is complaining about, again, this is where he kind of has a 180, where in the beginning he's talking about how much he hates Rome. When the navy's coming in to attack, he's like, there's nothing good about Rome. And he makes a reference that's clear it's supposed to be to a famous Roman historian critique of Rome, which is they make a desert and call it peace. And he says something to that effect.
Cool. So at the very least, Ridley Scott did some research and found cool things that he could pepper in.
Yeah.
All right. Before we say our final ratings for this film, let's read some of the top Letterboxd reviews. The one with the most likes says, "Of course, the two tyrants had to be two twinks." The next one says, "In the Coliseum, we all fans." And then the third most popular one's a real review. It says,
It's not interesting.
Having Paul Mescal essentially be Maximus 2.0 sounds like a cool idea, but it's ultimately a reminder that very few actors had the level of magnetism Crowe had in 2000. Wouldn't say he is sauceless, and the script rehashing the first movie isn't doing his characters any favors, but there is an element that is missing.
I mean, how would you compare Paul Mescal here to like Chalamet in Dune?
Not quite as
or like,
magnetic.
I mean, who are the other like leading actors?
In
like
that era?
Yeah, and like
of
they're
this
like
era?
mid to late 20s, early 30s. Like they would have like the gravitas to like be on that level. It's not a lot. I mean, I know that we're in kind of a dry period right now.
Yeah, people say there's more movie stars.
I think that was something a lot of people brought up about Napoleon, is that they have, Joaquin Phoenix, who's way too old, and for a lot of Napoleon's, scenes playing him, and it's like, yeah, there's just not a dearth of these powerful.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think Paul Mescal's okay. I don't. Do we think this movie's gonna get any Oscar buzz? What Oscars do you think this movie's gonna try to go for?
Oh, it's gonna go for all of them. Whether it's successful, who knows?
I could see Denzel getting nominated for Best Supporting.
Yeah, I could see that.
And
Yeah,
maybe that's it. I mean, I
Costumes.
think costume design, set design. The movie did have a good number of practical sets that I really liked.
Yeah,
I don't know what the budget of this
relatively
was.
transported to Rome.
But you could see the budget on screen for sure.
Yeah. I think that the money's all there on screen. It's impressive. Even the sound design, like the soundscaping, was good.
They could have transferred some of the CGI money for practical for those monkeys with the baboons.
Yeah, even
The baboons did take me out of the film a little bit.
I love that in the water fight scene,
They had sharks.
they had to have sharks in the water.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was sick.
That was that was definitely
You got to ramp up the stakes.
that's some sauce, a little
There's
dash
like
of
little
sauce.
there's
wasn't
little
there?
islands too,
Yeah,
just to give a sense of scale, I guess, of how big the boats are.
yeah.
But yeah, the little CGI sharks, it felt kind of like Sharknado. They're just like floating around there.
Or Pirates of the Caribbean.
That's great. But it will be interesting to see if this movie gets like significant awards buzz. We talked about it last year. The first one won a bunch of Oscars, though. 2000 is considered a weak year for the Oscars in general. So looking at this film being essentially the same movie, it'll be interesting to see how it stacks up to the awards recognition of the first film.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing what gets more Oscar buzz, this or Wicked. Because obviously they came out the same date. They're competing right now.
Yeah, next weekend apparently is supposed to be, or since we're releasing this on Monday, the Thanksgiving weekend is supposed to be the highest grossing Thanksgiving weekend of all time, apparently, in the box office, because Moana 2 is coming out.
Oh, are people going to see that?
So it's going to be Wicked, Gladiator 2, and Moana 2 in theaters at the same time.
I could see, yeah. I hope it's a big weekend for movies. We love our movie theaters and we love seeing movies. So that would be great if people were going out to see movies with the family.
I mean, it's a good time, and we're only going to be getting more stuff now that we're getting into December, and these movies that are going for awards consideration are going to be coming out in December.
Yeah. I'm excited to see some of the Oscar contenders. I feel like I haven't seen any this year, and I've seen like 36 movies.
Yeah, we're getting to the point of the year where I need to start looking at lists online of the potential Oscar nominees and start putting in the work to watch them ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. A lot of these reviews on Letterboxd bring up the sharks.
They're a little distracting.
Shark.
That's the thing about bad CGI is the bad CGI is distracting.
Especially when everything else looks so good.
Yeah, the boats looked good.
The boats look amazing.
The water fight.
The monkeys
Water fights.
really took me out. Yeah, the water, it was really cool stuff, and then you just have the monkeys. Like, the bad CGI sharks didn't take me out that much, because it's like, all right.
I saw you chuckle when you saw the sharks.
Yeah, they're a little goofy.
You're all
Well, I thought
it's gonna be that kind of movie.
it was funny to me just because it's over the top. I didn't
Yeah, one of these
recognize. I didn't really. I wasn't like, I can't. The sea, because they're in water. I don't know. Like I didn't. Their form itself wasn't like noticeably deformed to me.
You think Ridley?
I agree.
You think Ridley Scott, when they were coming up with this movie, he had like a Dr. Evil moment where he's like, "I need frickin' sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads."
I think so. Like, when you're a director of that caliber and you're doing a sequel to like one of your biggest movies of all time, yeah, you can be like, I want sharks with laser beams. So there was a few pitches for Gladiator II before this came out, like way back when Gladiator was released. We talk about this on our Gladiator pod. Most of those scripts follow Lucius. Some of them confirm him as the son of Maximus. So very similar to what we got today. One of the sequel ideas was to have Maximus get reincarnated to fight various wars throughout history. I kind of wish we got that.
So it's basically God of War.
Yeah, exactly.
What they're doing with
It's
God
exactly
of War.
like God of War, but this was pre-God of War. I think that would have been cooler and crazier. I'm still
Would
pretty
definitely be
satisfied.
different.
Do you think we should have had at least?
Couldn't say it was the same thing again then.
Do you think we should have one scene of Lucius talking to Russell Crowe
in the clouds.
in like the in-between world, like in like Black Panther when he's talking to his dad?
God, all these movies are the same. They're all Hamlet.
Listen, it's Shakespeare, man. He made some good stories.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, Simba does it. Hamlet does it.
Maybe like he has a vision when he's going down to the armor, right? Or something. He picks up the sword.
Yeah, and
That you could do that there. I don't. Yeah, why not? Like,
or you could have the his friend the doctor give him like something to huff or something, and then he looks at the clouds.
Yeah, the opium.
Yeah, his friend the doctor
Dragon's breath.
could be like the Rafiki. I'm so excited for Mufasa, you guys.
Are you excited for Mufasa?
I don't know. I'm on a Lin-Manuel Miranda kick right now, so I probably will end up seeing.
I know a lot of people are upset that this is what Barry Jenkins has been working on.
Has been reduced to. Yes, understandable. And yet,
Listen, those Disney checks, man. You buy a lot of houses.
They clear. Yeah, everyone I talk to is like, Mufasa looks stupid, and I just know this thing's gonna make like $800 million.
Anytime somebody says Mufasa is stupid, just pull up the box office numbers for that quote unquote live action Lion King that they came out with.
The live action Lion King that was the highest grossing animated film of all time.
Yeah, it's entirely CGI, but it did not qualify for best animated picture the year it came out.
This is yeah. Anyway, any final thoughts? What are your ratings?
I think I'm gonna end up at a 7 here, which I think is exactly what I gave Gladiator 1. I think it's a good movie. It's a good movie that whatever your expectations are for the film, based on what you know of the first one, those expectations you're gonna see that through. I'm gonna recommend that my dad see this. My dad's a huge fan of the first Gladiator film.
Oh yeah, he'll love it.
He's gonna like this too.
Yeah.
I'd say 6 or 7. Yeah. I mean, I guess I was younger when I saw the first one, so maybe that's it. But I think it just it's not as crisp as the first one, but it's still, it's like you said, like a lot of a lot of the battles were good, and it's a good watch.
Yeah, I think the novelty of seeing this world wears off a little bit, seeing it again here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, yeah, some things they're able to do better because they're just like I think like the fact like some of like the fanfare of like that triumph is better, and like the first one I think it looks like he's going through like a clear like digitally computer sequence of just like walls of people when he's just like riding around Rome in the beginning, and this one's a bit better.
And the first movie gives you the satisfaction at the end of the movie of him finally killing Commodus at the end of it. It's super satisfying, and this movie does not ever hit those type of highs.
No, I'm also coming in at a 7, not to just be the same as you guys, but yeah, it's really a 3.5 out of 5 star movie for me.
It's a strong 7.
3.5 for sure. It's quite fun. It's definitely entertaining for the 2.5 hour runtime, and it does kind of transport you to another time, which is very cool. It's just, I think that compared to the first one, which is considered a masterpiece in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the first one's better, but it's like that with a lot of movie franchises. It's always difficult for the sequel to live up to the original, and I think it's still good. It's a quality film. It is not a cash grab by any means. I think they made like a pretty good story.
Yeah,
it was a continuation of the first one.
As I said, it does a heck of a lot better than a lot of the franchise reboots that I've seen. So I'll give it that.
This movie is also going to have some great YouTube compilations of side-by-sides of moments from the first movie and moments from the second movie.
I think those will be cool. I'll probably watch those.
I can see the thumbnail right now. It's Joseph Quinn with his thumbs down and Joaquin Phoenix with his thumbs down.
I think the real test is going to be like, how do people feel watching this movie in like a hotel room on TNT? I think that's
going to be a good TNT movie.
I think it'll be a decent TNT movie, but still not as good as the first one.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, any final thoughts?
Go see Gladiator. Do the double feature. What is?
Remember, like I said in the first Gladiator, the biggest historical inaccuracy is that gladiators didn't actually fight to the death. Deaths were rare.
Got it.
That's all.
Pretty important. These movies show nothing but deaths. Does Wicked and Gladiator have a Barbenheimer name?
It's just called Glicked right now. No one likes it. It's not catching on.
We did see a group of women that had a bunch of Wicked Witch of the West hats on.
Dude, at the place I work, we had an event for people to watch Wicked for free early. And like everyone was coming in with their Wicked clothes. So many people had like sequin dresses and vests on.
The musical theater kids have been waiting so long for this movie.
Yeah, this is their Avengers Endgame. I don't know what to tell you. I know, like, and I didn't realize this until I went to see Wicked with people yesterday. But I had multiple friends tell me, yeah, I saw Wicked on Broadway when I was in middle school. It changed my life. Then I had my boss come in today, and he was like, I saw Wicked last night. It changed my life. So, yeah, what were we saying? Go see Wicked? Yeah, I think that should be your takeaway from this.
But yeah, that's going to be it for our Gladiator 2 review. We have to go to bed in a couple hours, I guess, now, right?
Yep. Check us out.
No new score. Also.
No new score. Yeah.
Yeah, who did the music? Was it Hans again?
Yeah, Hans Zimmer.
All right. Check us out on Patreon, Discord, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.
Yeah, and hit us up on Patreon. Give us a couple bucks a month. You can get our episodes early. You can get your name in the credits, all that good stuff. We'll fly you out to the studio. You can guest on the pod.
We've done it before.
You can come. Yeah, we really have. There are people who have flown on a plane to our city specifically to be on this podcast, as well as other things. But it's not the point.
So true, so true. All right, guys. Thank you for watching and or listening. We'll see you at the movies.